Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank everyone for joining us this moment. And it's my pleasure to be able to introduce the investigative team that is responsible for this investigation, but also for communicating the details of this. This is a robbery investigation which spanned 6 months and resulted in the arrest of 6 individuals and 63 different charges. Now, the impact on community safety, especially in our region as it relates to robberies, are quite significant. And this is just an illustration of the length and the tireless amount of work that goes behind the scenes to conclude and resolve them. And they're quite often related to multiple investigations in multiple jurisdictions. And in this case, on the day of the arrest, as you'll hear, 4 individuals were arrested and a loaded handgun was seized as they were on their way to commit another robbery. It's my pleasure to be able to thank the cooperation not only of our investigators here at Peel Regional Police, but the investigators from Halton Regional Police, Barrie Police Service, and the Canadian Border Service, the CBSA. These investigations cross many boundaries and many borders, and they cannot be done alone. With that, I'd like to thank the investigative team and thank them for ensuring that community safety remains a priority in our region. And with that, I'll turn it over to Acting Detective Steve Sherwin, who will speak to you more detail about the nature of the investigation. Steve.
Thanks, Chief. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Like the Chief mentioned, I would like to thank CBSA, Halton Police Service, and Barrie Police Service for their assistance in this investigation. Detective Constable Lindsay Murray and Detective Mike Malter from Halton Police have joined us today. I would like to thank the investigative team from the Central Robbery Bureau, along with the many different areas within the Peel Regional Police that have supported this investigation. Our press conference this morning is about a group of individuals that we believe were engaged in criminal activities as far back as May of 2018 and possibly prior to that. These individuals are also associated to communities throughout Eastern and Western Canada. It is our intent to share this information with the public, our media partners, and police services across Canada to assist with any information that will tie these individuals to any outstanding criminality or criminal offenses. On March 13, 2019, investigators became aware of a warehouse robbery in the area of Steeles Avenue East and Goreway Drive in the city of Brampton. 2 men forced their way into the cab of a delivery truck loaded with cell phones. In this photo, you can see the suspects blocking the path of the truck with their car. While holding the delivery driver at gunpoint, they transferred his load into a waiting truck. Approximately 8,500 new cellular phones and tablets destined for stores throughout the GTA were stolen. The value of the stolen property is estimated at $6.9 million. Fortunately, the victim did not sustain any physical injuries. On Sunday, July 28, 2019, just after 2 a.m., a group containing some of the same individuals, while armed with a firearm, attempted a robbery at a secure cargo yard at Steeles Avenue and Winston Churchill Boulevard in Halton Hills. While doing so, a security guard was assaulted and held at gunpoint. The individuals involved discovered that the robbery was being captured by the security cameras and fled prior to entering the cargo yard. While the victim wasn't physically injured, the encounter was traumatizing. On the night of August 25, 2019, the same individuals entered a Mississauga commercial truck yard and stole 3 commercial trucks. 2 of them were connected to trailers. Later that night, 4 males from this group were arrested together as they drove to commit another gunpoint robbery at a warehouse in Mississauga. During the arrest, investigators recovered a loaded Smith & Wesson handgun, believed to be the same handgun used in the previous 2 robberies. The males were in possession of items commonly used in robberies, which include zip ties, duct tape, rope, and bear spray. Although designed to protect individuals from bears, the spray is believed to be used as a weapon against the victim. Some of the phones and tablets stolen in the March 13th robbery have been recovered by investigators. In September, investigators from the Central Robbery Bureau, assisted by tactical, canine, and uniform officers, arrested the remaining males responsible for the March 13th armed robbery. A total of 6 individuals were arrested and 63 criminal charges have been laid to date. As the team continues with the investigation, additional criminal charges are expected. Garnett Ricketts, a 45-year-old man from Mississauga, was charged with robbery, kidnapping, and use of an imitation weapon. Ian Mitchell, a 47-year-old man from Brampton, was charged with 21 criminal charges, including 2 counts of robbery with a firearm and kidnapping. Kenrick Young, a 61-year-old man from Brampton, was charged with 17 criminal charges, including 2 counts of robbery with a firearm and kidnapping. Chris Mornan, a 50-year-old man from Brampton, was charged with robbery, kidnapping, and use of an imitation firearm while committing an offense. Dexter Abrams, a 49-year-old man from Toronto, was charged with 8 criminal charges, including robbery with a firearm and possession of a loaded, restricted firearm. And finally, Cecil Young, a 75-year-old man from Toronto, was charged with 11 criminal offenses, including robbery with a firearm. We can now take some questions, but as Constable Mookin stated previously, keep in mind that this is now transferred to the courts, so I may be limited in my responses.
It's clear that all these robberies that they did were very planned, very well thought out. They knew locations, times to be there, that kind of stuff. Can you just talk a bit about that, the fact that this wasn't smash and grabs, this was some pretty coordinated stuff they were doing?
Yeah, I can't get into the details of how the group acted, but that we do believe that it was orchestrated. And I mentioned on August 25th, 25th and 26th, we were able to arrest them prior to committing a robbery. So that is part of our details of our investigation, so I won't get into too many details about that.
Detective, good work, by the way. Can you maybe explain the importance of intelligence-led policing and the sharing of information within police agencies, which I assume helped you with this outcome?
Yeah, thanks a lot. In an investigation like this, and I mentioned that these suspects has ties to Eastern and Western Canada, communities throughout Canada, as well as the GTA. I mentioned that Halton Police is here, and we worked with Halton Police. An investigation like this, it's almost a united front. We work together, and the transfer of information is very important. And in this investigation, it led to criminal charges. Working with the Halton Police, working with the CBSA, it led to the criminal charges against these guys.
With regards to the confidence in the community, an arrest like this obviously affects the impact, affects the mood of the community, and obviously instills great confidence in the police when they see an arrest like this. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, that may be a question that the chief may be better off to answer that.
Thanks, Steve. Well, we all know that any crime, but particularly ones with violence involved, affect everybody. Not only we're talking about the individual victims that you saw involved in this, but it's a business community. You know, we want to make sure the community understands that this is a good place to live, to work, to play. It's a thriving community, and our ability to resolve the issues that are, that bleed into, businesses and individual businesses or large businesses are important. Victimization knows no boundaries as it relates to, one person. You think about the families of these individuals that have been impacted by it. They're seeing the changes that are caused by it. And so when, Detective Sherwin spoke about its traumatic impact, that cannot be understated. So for us, it's not just about apprehending or recovering property. That's clearly a great thing evidentiary-wise. It's about stopping the overall impact And, there's a reason there's 4 agencies that are with us today or that are being part of it, because it's symptomatic of what people can feel across boundaries. So that's not lost upon us, and it is a primary focus. One of our roles is not just getting people brought to the stage of prosecution, but it's our response to victims and ensuring a community feels like they are safe and that there's a significant amount of effort. The reason that there is, we're doing a press conference is to showcase a lengthy, this is a 6-month investigation. It didn't happen overnight. You spoke about intelligence-led policing. That's the key tenet to how these things get resolved. It's not just impacted Peel region, it's impacted multiple municipalities. And, everybody needs to know that there is a combined effort, a united front, as it was said, that's responding to that. Thanks.
This is probably a question for the investigators, but could you talk to the relationship of the individuals involved that were arrested, whether they had were known to police previously, and were you surprised at the ages of them?
Yeah, so your last question there, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised that a 75-year-old man was charged. But that's the criminal offenses, age has no restriction on that. And so we find that in our investigations. We just have to bring those responsible to court and make them accountable for what they did. I won't comment on the relationship between the individuals. And sorry, you're
Were they known to police? Were they on your radar before for anything else, or lengthy criminal records, anything like that?
Yeah, so all 6 individuals were known to police prior to the investigation.
Detective, were any of the articles that were stolen sold or put into circulation?
So you can see we've recovered a portion of the stolen phones. The investigation into the remaining phones continues, so I won't comment on that, but we're continuing with that to locate the remaining phones.
Detective, would you be able to specify which of the individuals were arrested in August and the other 2, I believe, stemming from the March incident?
Yes, sure. So the August arrest was Ian Mitchell, Kenrick Young, Dexter Abrams, and Cecil Young. And then the remaining 2, Garnet Ricketts and Chris Mornan, were arrested after that.
And you may have answered this by not being able to comment on the relationship, but forgive me here. Young is a pretty common last name. Is there any relation between those 2 individuals that you know of?
At this point, we can't comment on the relationship between them.
Detective, just were these individuals kind of these 6, or were they involved in something bigger? Was there more of an organized crime element, gang element, anything like that connected to what they were doing?
Through our investigation, we have no ties right now to any bigger or larger element. But like I mentioned, the investigation continues into this.
Yeah, sorry.
Were you aware of any other products other than phones and tablets, things like that, that were being targeted, and were there any specific brands that they were targeting?
Again, I won't get into the details, but like I said before, we knew that they were there was a target for the August 25th arrest, and that's we prevented that from occurring.
Sorry, Detective, I don't know if you can get to specifics of this or not, but how did you guys end up getting tipped off about this? Was it information from the public? I mean, maybe even in general terms, can you just talk about, did it come from the public? Did it come from a tip? How did you guys end up kind of zoning in on these guys?
Yeah, we always encourage tips from the public because they're essential to our investigations. But like I mentioned, I can't get into the details. There are many different avenues in an investigation like this that spans over 6 months. There's a lot of dedicated time and work from many different avenues.
Yeah, forgive me, because I came in a little late, I apologize. So I'm just not clear, if you wouldn't mind just sort of recapping the beginning part of it. I'm not clear, is this 6 individuals that did this and are not connected to organized crime, or is this connected to organized crime and offshore sales and things like that?
So at this point, there's no indication that there's ties to organized crime. The investigation into the remaining cell phones and the remaining property is still ongoing. Our purpose today is to get their faces out, talk about how they operated. I'm talking today about 3 robberies, so March, August, and July. But we know that they were active prior to that. So we want to, like I mentioned, get it out to the public, to you guys in the media, and to other police agencies, and with the potential that maybe these individuals were responsible for more, and we'd like to.
Well, I tweeted recently about the South Common Mall, which is near where I live, so that's why I ran into it. There was 2 stores there that were broken into, and all their cell phones and these kinds of things were taken from there. Would that be the kind of thing that could be related to these guys? And then the other question is, what's the market for this? Where does this, how do they make money from this? Do they sell it back to stores or to people, or what? Do you know that yet, or?
So I can't comment on the market by your house, because I don't know the details of that. And the investigation into the whereabouts of the phones and where they go is ongoing. But what I can say is what I've learned through this investigation is that with cell phones, there's security measures that can be put in place that once they're stolen, they essentially make them useless to people, and so limit the ability to be resold after that. And that's what we saw with these cell phones.
So they did all of this, and they can't sell them because the technology doesn't allow them to operate?
I can't get into the details of the security measures, but
But that is pretty interesting. I mean, from a public safety point of view, that's not a bad thing to put out there to would-be robbers, that you can't do anything with this.
yeah, they essentially become a paperweight.
Do you have a breakdown of the nearly $7 million worth of property seized as to how that was divided amongst the various items?
Oh, you mean like, for example, how many Samsung tablets or? Yeah, no, not at this point. We don't. What I can say is with 8,500 phones and tablets, they were the newest, the phones. So, for example, if you were to go into a cell phone store, they would be the phones that you would see in the store now. So it's a wide variety of the latest phones.
Was it, just to clarify, was it like mostly electronics that they were after? That's what they were getting? There was no other stuff involved?
In the March 13th robbery, that was solely 8,500 or approximately 8,500 electronics. I won't speak to the details on the other robberies.
Any cash or drugs seized?
No.
Thanks, everyone.